Alright, let's see. Finally, some Final Fantasy shit. God damn! We gotta do it. Oh my god, 7:20, bro. God damn. Okay, I gotta finish these 4 videos. I'm going to sleep after. I have a little test tomorrow morning after the gym, and then we're gonna do some MSQ. But first of all, let's watch Quazii, 5 changes that Final Fantasy XIV needs in the next 10 years.
Week for Final
Let's see.
Fantasy XIV as Yoshi P and team takes to the air on Friday to talk about patch 6.2.
Wait.
Oh,
oh fuck! I still haven't watched that.
Island sanctuaries and Criterion dungeons.
I need to watch. I need to
Patch
watch
6.2
that.
video. Link to the top right if you want to check that out. But in essence, everyone is excited about all those new features.
Yeah.
Because those could be a core part of the gameplay experience for years to come. Now we don't know what to expect, so we can only wait with bated breath. But I think it's also a perfect moment, given we are talking about the future of Final Fantasy XIV, to get some talk about how we want
Let's go, Theorycraft.
over the next 10 years.
Let's
Now,
go.
if you've been following the news of Final Fantasy XIV, Yoshi P did say that he wants to make this game his legacy, meaning he's not gonna stop working on the game anytime soon. And not too long ago, he mentioned that Final Fantasy XIV is something that they're designing to work for the next 10 years. And in Producer Live Letter 68, he outlined plans for the next 10 years. So in today's video, I'd like to present my own wish list of where I hope Final Fantasy XIV is going in the next 10 years. Now before we start, let me set the tone first. I feel like with Endwalker, Final Fantasy XIV has already turned the corner, and the issues of a horrible 1.0 launch is very, very far back in everyone's memory now. It's not even something worth talking about. Convincing people to give the game a second chance. That was no doubt the hardest part, which is why I think the future is bright. Because they keep hitting record amount of registered accounts, which means that new players are constantly coming in, and sure, it might not be coming in as fast.
Bro, to this day, how many, like, when was Endwalker released? Like, let's see, Endwalker release. It's been a while. Jesus Christ, I can't type. December. 7 months ago, basically. 8 months ago, almost, actually, yeah. 7.5 months ago, yeah. There are still queue times. They're not big, obviously, but there's still queue times. How crazy is that?
Continues to grow. It's also very evident from Square Enix's quarterly financial performances. Final Fantasy XIV subscription continues to carry the company. Now, why did I provide that context? Because technically, with more success in the game, they now can go on to do more ambitious things. And we have already seen that Yoshi P and team have presented the graphical upgrades, which by the way I can't wait for to come to the game. I do think that the graphical engine within the
wait, so they didn't implement it yet? Wait. Oh shit. True, they didn't implement it yet, huh? Wow. Cool.
Slightly dated. I remember going through the Endwalker MSQs, and I know there were certain scenes that were very dimly lit. So the facial features, the characters, the expressions, you can't really see them properly because of the limitations of the graphical engine, basically. The engine looks amazing, and I can't wait to see it through a different lens. But this is one good example of, with a bigger budget, what Yoshi P and team can do for the game in the next 10 years. So on to the wish list. The way I think about my own wish list, there's not a single element that will be a game changer.
I really hate his character. I wish I could just, like, cut this half off the video. I really hate his character.
On its own. However, if you compound the improvements over a whole series of changes and feature rollouts, I think it will position the game really well for growth in the next 10 years. The first thing on my wish list, Glamour systems. Let's talk about the good stuff.
Bro, Glamour definitely needs work, man. Like, what I honestly feel they should have, what WoW has for transmogs, you have, like, you click Shift P and you go to the appearance tab and you can find all the appearances. I wish they would do that in Final Fantasy. I want to see all the appearances. I want to mix and match shit so I can actually make it. The problem is, like, even if you go to something like the Eorzea collection or whatever and, like, look at mogs that you can make, it is really, really fucking hard to make it properly. It is really hard to see it like you see it in WoW. WoW is like the accessibility in WoW's transmogs, just to, like, the preview is just so much better than Final Fantasies, and I wish they would add that, as well as way more Glamour slots. It's just like make like 50 at least. Like each class, each job that you have would have like at least one or two. Like, make it like 50, right?
First got in touch with the Glamour system, I was absolutely blown away by how most pieces could be dyed individually as a component. Meaning for every single slot, most of the items can be changed in terms of color variation.
Wait, what was I talking about? ESO?
Systems. Let's talk about the good stuff. When I first got in touch with the Glamour system, I was absolutely blown away by how most pieces could be dyed individually as a component. Meaning for every single slot, most of the items can be changed in terms of color variation.
Yeah.
Not just like simple color choices.
I still prefer the ESO version, but yeah.
Shades of blue. There's a massive amount of color combinations that you can explore. Sometimes all it takes is just a color change and you have an entirely new outfit. And it feels different. Some of the paint have different reflective textures.
I think ESO does it better. The only problem is the ESO armors are just like fucking poo-poo. I mean, it fits the ESO world, but it's like, man, I want some hard fantasy. What I want really is Guild Wars 2 mogs in WoW mostly, but in Final Fantasy as well.
Some of them are metallic in nature, some of them more
like,
shiny.
We need more Eureka armors, right? We need more shine on the armors. The weapons are cool, like shiny weapons and shit like that. You can get them. I feel like they're pretty cool. But like I wish they would add like something like enchantments to weapons, where you can just like add an extra visual effect on weapons. So like imagine adding a flame to like a frost weapon or some shit like that, you know?
Than the others. It's a phenomenal part of the Glamour system. I love it. I think we all can recognize that Glamour is a huge part of the game.
It is the game. It is the game.
Life is essentially a fashion show within Final Fantasy.
My god, bro, enough with your Lalafell. God damn, bro. Look at those fat ass legs.
They're always on the hunt for the next outfit to wear. And I think a lot of goodwill can be gained if the Glamour system is improved. How so? Right now there's a slot limitation in terms of the amount of Glamour pieces you can store away. And chances are, if you've already played the game for a few years now, you already have to prune some of your item slots within your Glamour dresser. There's just too many good looking outfits and pieces in the game. What's the alternative? Well, some people file away those extra Glamour items away in retainers, which by the way is an entirely different hassle in terms of looking up certain items. You can search for items using your console, but then just to retrieve, let's say, this X piece of Glamour item that you stored away last year, you probably have to go through your retainer menus, and there's a few layers of different menus that you have to go through in order to finally retrieve it.
Yeah, it's so much of a pain in the ass, bro.
Is that upon obtaining a certain piece of item, for the system to be able to file away the fact that you have gained access to this Glamour piece, and you can delete that item and still retain the ability to change into that Glamour for that slot. Now, this technology already exists in other MMORPGs.
Gotta hate his Lala stuff.
There's technical limitations, but I think this will be absolutely amazing. On top of that, they can make it a collection system. For example, imagine a feature within the game where you can scroll through every single slot in terms of the headpiece, the chest piece, the pants that you can be wearing, and you can scroll through all the options. You can see which pieces you actually have not collected, and for those that you have not collected, maybe the system can even tell you where to farm it. I think these quality of life changes will elevate the entire Glamour system, and I think that will actually help retention with the game, especially amongst the more casual audiences. Now, I understand there's technical limitations to make this happen. That's why we're talking about the next 10 years. Because I believe with time and resources, they potentially can make it happen. One final thing for Glamour, something to tie everything together. I think it would be really cool to have weekly or even monthly community-led Glamour competitions. For example, the Final Fantasy XIV Twitter can put out a weekly challenge centered around a certain theme. For example, this week is dressing up like pirates. Players can submit their own screenshots, and the winners can be determined by a fan vote. It's something that's really simple, it doesn't cost much to run at all. And Final Fantasy...
This is something that streamers would just win automatically. It's not... Yeah, I don't think that's... Any public vote in an MMORPG when streaming is such a big thing for gamers is just a no-go right away.
T14 can give away just cool merchandises or swags as prizes. All I'm saying is that the Glamour system has a lot of potential. They already have a good base. Now, there's some great parts about the base. There's some parts that I think...
Look at this guy fucking bought this shit. Look at this guy. What is it doing buying this?
Are in order,
I mean, it's cool said.
A lot of potential. and one can dream about the possibilities. Next up on my wish list is regarding downsinking. I think one of the smartest things they have done is they've introduced roulettes that keeps old content relevant, old dungeons relevant. For example, when I do roulettes and I queue into some of my old favorite dungeons,
I mean, they're relevant, but like...
and you hear your favorite OST from back in the days, like the Long Fall in the Twinning Dungeon. It's always very nostalgic, and I think they're really smart to make old content relevant through roulettes. However, the part that doesn't feel great is how downsinking is implemented. And in an ideal world, I think that we can keep all our current job abilities and our current level when you downsync. And you might say, what's the big deal about losing a few abilities? Well, I'll give you an example. As a paladin main, I'm used to having gap closers in recent content. However, if I go back to do Heaven's War content, suddenly I'm without gap closers. And it kind of feels weird because suddenly I feel so clunky in terms of
it's really annoying,
this is just one good example. I think some people
I just wish it would just scale to max level, honestly. Like the dungeon just scale to the max level or something like that. And like your queue would just scale to max level or something. I don't know. It's gonna be hard. It's like... Or scale to the... No, it's... Because this is the problem. Like you can't just scale it to a max level because then a new player would not know what the fuck they're doing. But it's like it's boring for like other players. Like I wish they would just unlock more abilities earlier, right? Like certain key abilities for tanks and healers and DPS should be available as soon as the dungeons start. Mostly I would say mobility stuff, because mobility is really what makes the characters feel a lot better. Same as like unlock AoE for like certain classes earlier. Alright, it's like
dungeons where you do not have access to your AoE abilities and something that is tedious. And I can totally relate to what they're saying. Now I understand why they do not actually want us to have our full range of job kits and
you don't need the full range.
One reasoning is that those old design and encounters are designed around those job kits and abilities back in the days.
No, they're not.
I would also argue that another way around
I would argue they're not. Look at what's that the first dungeon, Sestasha or whatever, with the start, there's like the 2 beds and there's like the fish, the clams with the fire shit. That's all AoE. That whole place, like you can just mass pull all of it and AoE it down, but you can't because you don't have AoE abilities, right? It's not that area is not developed with without AoE in mind. Right, that is like a pure AoE place, and then the pirate room is also a pure AoE place. Like you get like very like 3 groups very close together, that's like 3 mobs, and then a patrol of like 1 more mob, right? Something like that. So it's like, yeah, it is designed for AoE. There's no way that it's not. It's just that some classes just don't get AoE until later.
Is basically to
like, why is Samurai getting his AoE at like level 15 or some shit, but like Dragoon is at 38? That makes no sense.
Tweak the potencies when you are being downscaled.
It's just
you keep all
so
your
annoying.
job abilities, but you put a cap in terms of potency for, let's say,
No, the problem with that is, what if there's a lower level? Like, it's great for the max people, like the max level people, but like it would fuck up the people who are like low level. Right? Again, would it be okay if you just so you have all the abilities that you already unlocked, but the potency decreases to the level. So let's say you're doing Sestasha level 20, 22, whatever, or 15, I don't even remember what level it is, and like you have all the abilities, but it's like if you're with level 15, the level 15 only has his whatever abilities, but then it's like, wouldn't he feel weird that's like everyone's just like fucking flying and shit and he just can't? Right, like see like the rogue just fucking teleports forward. I don't know. I mean, it probably could work, I guess.
The newer abilities that you feel might be too overpowered.
And then I guess the guy who's like low level newbie, he can be like, yo, that's pretty cool that they can do all this shit. Maybe I should try those out as well. Could be.
In old content. I know of players who actively avoid older content just because they don't like to be downsynced and they lose.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying. It's fine. It's really fun as a tank and as an AFK healer, like a scholar, because you can just AFK. All your heals is like your, literally all your heals is like your pet, the fairy. So it's like whatever. but like if you have to do shit, like yeah, it's a bit annoying.
actually don't enjoy the experience of having to go back to an older rotation when they are already so familiar with their current job abilities and they are so in sync with their current rotation. I think from a technical feasibility standpoint, if they can figure a way to basically allow us to go back to do old content with our current job abilities kept the same by just tweaking potency values, I think there'll be a massive plus for replayability of Final Fantasy XIV going forward into the next 10 years. Don't forget, as we continue to get new expansions, the pile of old dungeon and old content will continue to grow, and therefore there's a more important need to make sure downsyncing is as appealing as possible to many players. So that is second on my wish list. Next up on my wish list, housing. And I know this is a hot topic. We started off with just the placard method, which was rampant with botters and auto clickers and auto macros. That was how you were supposed to get a house. And then we moved to a lottery system, which I think it's a more fair system, but I always still see a lot of disappointing comments that they have missed out on the lottery. And having seen people decorate their houses firsthand, I think owning and decorating a house is an experience that all Final Fantasy XIV players should be able to experience. Not just only for the lucky ones who won
I guess
the
if you
lottery.
want,
Honestly,
yeah,
the
but
sky is the limit when it
just
comes
don't
to
care about
decorating
it,
your
I
own
guess.
house. That is replayable content by itself. I understand it's a resource hog to be providing housing for everyone in the game, but again, we're talking about a wish list where Yoshi P and team has resources to make things happen. I would love for instance housing to be a thing. Now, the island sanctuaries they will preview on Friday might solve that to a certain extent, although Yoshi P and team
I am looking forward to the island sanctuaries straight up. I think that would be fantastic. I actually I want to play the game, forget I want to do the MSQ and all that stuff again, but I really want to do that as well.
Expectations regarding island sanctuaries. I do feel like some form of instance housing, whether it's the form of an island, whether it's the form of a proper house, or whether it's the form of a large apartment, I think giving everyone the experience of decorating one's house, hosting your friends and showing all of your belongings, that is an experience that everyone should be able to go through. And honestly, they keep releasing new furnitures every now and then. There's always ways to continuously improve the look and feel of your house. That sounds like a good retention tool to me, but I think the biggest frustration is being able to access a house in the first place. And if they can remove that as a blocker, I think it will add a lot of replayability to the game. The other thing about instance housing is that it solves a long time complaint of housing, which is if you want to stop your subscription of the game, you will potentially lose your
the rent and stuff.
I understand why this rule was here in the first place. Yoshi P and team obviously doesn't want people hogging land when they are unsubscribed for the game.
Yeah, but at the same time,
for the active players to play. Or what if someone wants to take a 1-year break from the game? I think everyone is entitled to take breaks from Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, without losing their shit.
People who actually do not stop their subscription simply because they want to hold on to their house, even though they don't really play the game much.
But what if you have just enough gil? Wouldn't it just keep draining your gil, or do you have to log in order for it to drain your gil?
Because they're taking a break and life circumstances have changed, but they do intend to come back eventually. Instance housing would solve this dilemma of being forced to pay a subscription if you're trying to hold on to a very valuable plot of land. Again, I caveat, I know it's an intense technical and resource hog to give everyone housing. But we are talking about a decade's worth of progress. Maybe they can make it happen. Next up on my wish list is actually the front-end system of Final Fantasy XIV. The hardest part by far for me when playing the game is actually buying the game and accessing the game and installing the game. That is the hardest part of Final Fantasy XIV. It is not ultimate rates, it's not housing, it's actually buying the game. I'm willing to venture that, like me, there are people who stumbled upon Final Fantasy XIV themselves. They have no one to ask, and they don't know how to buy the game. I was very confused about the storefront on NA, and then there's the JP version of the store and the EU version of the Square Enix store. And I didn't know whether it was the same if I purchased them through the various regions. I went with NA anyway, and the next problem I had was creating my account, because I could not find Singapore amongst the list of country of residences. So funny story, the first account I ever created for Square Enix for Final Fantasy XIV, my address is actually a McDonald's somewhere in Ohio in the US.
Okay.
You almost imagine there are people who drop out during this process of trying to install and access the game, and these are lost opportunities for Final Fantasy XIV to show people what a great game it is. It's such a shame, because first impressions, they do matter. So I do hope they fix the front end.
Wait, what?
It's not housing, it's actually buying the game. I'm willing to venture that...
Oh, okay, guys, so okay.
Though people don't prefer to play Final Fantasy XIV through Steam, but at least the Steam user interface and front end is relatively easier to navigate. And while we're talking about the front end systems, it would be great if they can also update the mock station. What do I mean? The mock station seems to be like a legacy browser system.
Yeah,
where,
it's
for
really
instance, on the homepage you
trash.
see, let's say, a series of items. Let's say there are 8 of them on the homepage. I'm not able to right-click on all of them and browse them in a new tab. In order to browse through all 8 of them on the homepage, I have to click onto the first one, and then click the back button, and then click on the second one, and click the back button again, rinse and repeat. It does feel like it's coded for browsers many eons ago, and it's in need of a refresh and a revamp. After all, buying the game and accessing the mock station is contributing directly to the revenues of the game. If there's any quality of life fix that they should be incentivized to look into, I think it's probably this component. And there's one last thing on my wish list that, for lack of a better word, I will call a hook. What do I mean? Well, Yoshipi has said that their intention is to make Final Fantasy XIV as solo-friendly as possible, which is quite a smart decision actually, because the strongest selling point of Final Fantasy XIV is the MSQs, no doubt.
True.
The single-player story. And that's why they're going back to update all the trust systems, etc. I think he even confirmed that
he didn't do it.
In his recent interviews, he's saying that he's seen a lot of solo players, new players come to the game because of all these changes. Which is great, by the way, but as a wish list, as something that I'm thinking about for the next 10 years, for the game to grow sustainably, I think it's important that when someone...
I, like, a lot of people play MMORPG because of the social aspect and stuff, but it's like, I get that. I'm not saying you should be able to compete with other players, like online players, with like social players as a single player, but you should be able to do all of the shit that they can do. Not necessarily get all the stuff that they can get, but at least do like majority, like almost everything that they can do, just without players. I don't see why MMORPGs do not allow pretty much any single player capabilities in their game. Right, even like World of Warcraft, for example, has no single player shit. Right, World Quests are, but even World Quests, you have very hard World Quests where it's like certain classes are gonna have too hard of a time. You might as well like roll a tank or some shit, or just join a group and like easily farm it. Like the northwest of Bastion area, for example, with the elite Kyrians. It's just a pain in the ass to do as anything. You just have to join a group to actually get it done. Same with like the stuff in Maldraxxus, like the southern area of Maldraxxus with those guys. Like the percentage is too slow, takes forever to kill anything. It's like you might as well be a tank. So if you want to like at least grab multiple mobs, but yeah, it's just a pain in the ass. The game is really not allowing for single player stuff. The only single player stuff the game ever allowed was literally the mage tower, which to do it you would still need to do a lot of social stuff to get social activities in order to get the gear and the item level to do the actual like solo content, which really sucks. Now, that being said, the main argument people are gonna have is, well, then don't play an online game. I'm not saying take away from the online gamers though. It's like sometimes you just don't want to play with other people. Sometimes you just want to chill, do your own shit, and it's like, why do I have to play a completely different game? Like, why can't I have one game that I play, but it allows me to do anything and everything, right? It's like, I'm not saying I'm gonna be doing like Mythic Raid with a bunch of bots, even though some will argue that I was already doing it with some of my raid team members, but like, so bad. So bad. But yeah, it's like, I don't see why an MMORPG can't allow for more aspects of RPG. Like solo RPG for you. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Finishes the MSQs, you give them a reason to hang out, to stay in the world of Eorzea, and contribute to this living and breathing MMORPG. It's called MMORPG for a reason. Massive multiplayer online. One of the core experiences that makes Final Fantasy XIV unique is that when you go to Limsa, it's bustling and there's all these people around in town. There's a social aspect to the game. And I do think catering to solo players is important, but I think equally important for a sustainable growth is not to only attract players, but also to retain them, to give them a reason to continue playing the game, to be invested in the community, even after they finish the MSQs. Because I will venture a guess that a good number of people, they actually play Final Fantasy XIV for the MSQs, and then they basically take a break from the game, which is completely fine, but we are talking about MMORPG as a genre for the next 10 years. years.
Yeah.
MMORPG as a genre of a video game is no longer a fresh concept, and that's why
it's not. And also, like, you can get your social aspects from so many other avenues, Twitter, Discord, and all that stuff. You can literally play a single player game, join a Discord for that game, and just talk to people while you're playing single player. Like, the social aspect of MMORPG is no longer like a fantastic, wow, holy shit, I can talk to people from other places in the world. It's not as extravagant as it used to be, and I think like the developers of said MMORPGs should really stop trying to force that social aspect on people, because it's like people get that by default. Not force, but like overly social game. Oh my god, I don't have any. Like, the overly social aspect of it is just like, I don't think it's needed as much. But yeah, anyways.
Really important to have some form of ability to hook and retain people after they finish the MSQs, especially if they are solo players who did not join the game with any friends, like I did. Which is why I think we've seen initiatives like the Crystalline Conflict, mass casual PvP mode that is engaging. We've seen them venture towards island sanctuaries and Criterion dungeons, which are what I think are mid-core activities that will cater to the general public, to give people a reason to stay on in Final Fantasy XIV, to continue on with their subs, even after they finish the MSQs. Because I think Yoshi-P and team have absolutely nailed being able to bring in new players. And if they're also able to figure out
pretty good job, yeah.
They will also get the solo-oriented players engaged in a multiplayer online community, then that will put the game in a tremendous state as they gear up for the next 10 years. So that's my wish list. Are there anything you're looking forward to in the next 10 years? Let me know in the comments below. I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Again, this could be a historic week for Final Fantasy XIV as we learn about all these new amazing features like Criterion dungeons and island sanctuaries. So make sure to stay subscribed to the channel by clicking the button in the middle of the
Criterion
screen.
dungeons.
Rest assured, I'll be covering the event on Friday. And with that said, I stream from time to time on Twitch. Feel free to swing by and say hello. And a big thank you to my Patreon subscribers. Thanks for keeping the channel alive.
What a face.
Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you real soon. Channel alive.
His face here is crazy. 1 year in. Not your most flattering face, but yeah, fuck it, whatever. He looks happy enough. That's fine. Yeah. That's cool though. I like this animation. Yeah. Was it 5? I thought it was like 3. But yeah, we'll see. I need to watch the live letter. I didn't see it yet. Anyways, yeah, that was Quazii. 5 changes to Final Fantasy needs in the next 10 years, and we'll see. I think it needs more than that, but the Glamour one is probably the biggest one. They definitely need to work on their Glamour more. More accessible to Glamour and more spots for Glamour and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. That is probably the biggest one, I would say. But yeah, anyways, see you in the next one.